Have you ever thought of the complications of um what would happen if humans could date grass? Like think or if humans could date plants in general or be married to plants. What would that I mean, I know you think about that and you just brush it off. You're like, "Okay, that doesn't fucking matter." Cuz who the hell wants to date grass? That's what we're all thinking. But have you ever thought about the complications of what would happen if we could date grass? And before you leave, I just want you to think about this for a second. Grass is not only both male and female, but also several thousand complex holes connected to one hive mind. If you don't get what I'm saying, let me explain. One blade of grass is a sentient being connected through the roots to a large collection of other blades of grass that are all sentient. Or not sentient because it's grass, but like if grass was sentient, they would all be sentient. So, like, if you were in love with grass, how would that work? Would you be in love with like one blade of grass? Would you be in love with the complex whole of grass? And then how would that work? I mean, if grass is both genders, and then also every single gender of all the other blades of grass that are both genders, wouldn't that wouldn't just mean that they were both male and female, right? That would also mean that they were male and female like thousands of times. They're like the two genders at the same time thousands of times. Like actually. So if you're dating them, does that make you like super bisexual or does that make you one or the other or both? I'm like, does that make you straight? Does that make you gay? I think it would just make you super bisexual, right? And that's what I'm really trying to figure out because grass is not sentient, obviously, so we don't have to worry about this. But if you really like think about it, like think, if grass was sentient, that would be confusing as hell because grass, like I already mentioned, is if it was sentient would be a literal hive mind. It would be like that episode from Rick and Morty. It would be like the episode from Rick and Morty where Rick was dating the hive mind, except it's grass, so it can't move or talk or do anything. You would just have to like, I don't know what you would have to do. I genuinely have no idea, and that's the problem, right? Like, there's no feasible way you could date grass. But it's still so curious to me because, like, how would we categorize that as a society? If one person's dating one blade of grass, first of all, how does that work in terms of, like, morals and, like, legality? Like, do the other blades of grass, does it work like it does with Siamese twins? Like, do both blades of grass have to be aware or like consent to the relationship or consent to the marriage? Do both blades of grass have to consent to the marriage? Because then it's not just one blade of grass you're asking, it's like thousands of blades of grass that you're asking. So, like, how would that play out? I guess you would just have to ask. What if like 500 of them said no and 500 of them said yes? That's like a decent 50-50 shot, but you still have 500 to go. That would be a pretty shitty scenario, especially if you were in love with specifically one blade of grass. No, I feel like that would piss people off, maybe, or maybe not. I'm not really sure. But then what I'm really also wondering is that, whether or not that would even be legally considered consensual. Because obviously there comes consent to the marriage, but then what about consensual in all situations? Specifically the one you're thinking of. Would that even be morally correct? Because one, you cannot do anything with grass, right? So this is not something we need to worry about. But if you could do something with grass, you would need to ask each individual blade of grass for permission. All 5,000, possibly even 500,000 of them. You would need to ask them all for permission. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe in this hypothetical scenario, this specific blade of grass can separate from the other blades of grass, and then it'll just be fine. And I'm thinking about the scenario as well. Like, are they like grass people? How would a blade of grass be sentient? If they're like grass people, that solves all the problems, right? Because they're people. So it makes sense. But if they're like literal blades of grass, then it doesn't make sense. And I guess that's why God designed this world so that we could not have sex with blades of grass. Like, they're literally too small. I'm sure someone could do it if they really tried, but I really don't think anyone could. At least not a blade of grass. And I mean, that's my opinion. Like, I guess that's why we can't date grass, because it would just be too confusing. There would be no way to figure that out. There's no solution to this problem. You would just be stuck in this situation. Or I guess if it's a hive mind, wouldn't all the blades of grass automatically consent if you're dating one? I don't know. It's confusing. Leave a comment and grant me your opinion. I really would like some feedback on this. Thank you. Goodbye.